Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk a little bit about going to the dyno. I'm going to give you 5 tips that will help your dyno day go better. One of the principal businesses that we're engaged in at TechMotion is dyno tuning cars. I've been at this a lot of years. I've seen a lot of problems, and I'm going to try to give you a few tips to help you have a successful dyno session wherever you get your car tuned. The first thing that may seem really obvious, but you'd be surprised how often it becomes an issue, is fuel. Make sure that you have lots of fuel in the car. The dyno is going to run wide open throttle. It's quite thirsty. And if you show up with low fuel, you're going to run out and you're going to have to stop everything and fuel it from a jerry can. Another thing when it comes to fuel is the type of fuel. Lots of guys show up here with an octane level fuel which is higher than they intend to run on the street. That's a terrible idea. Bring the car with the fuel that you're going to run in it. Then it will be tuned for that fuel. Because if you bring it with a higher octane fuel or a booster or something like that, that distorts the way the car runs, your tuner may set it with too much timing, and then when you take it out on the street and you put a lower octane fuel in it, you could have problems. The next thing is tires. If your car runs slicks on the track and it requires that to hook up, bring them to the dyno. Yes, the rollers can be kind of hard on slicks, but if the car won't hook up on the rollers, you're not going to get a successful tune and you're not going to get a legitimate power measurement. Outside of the type of tires, make sure that your tires are in good repair and are reasonably new. Nobody wants to dyno a car with 20-year-old tires that are dry rotted and are going to explode. That's the last thing anybody wants, you included, because it's going to damage your car when they blow up. Make sure that the tires don't have plugs in them. If you've got a bunch of plugs or repairs on the tires, they could fail. Basically anything that could cause a tire failure on the dyno, avoid. Another thing you should do is pay attention to the overall maintenance of your engine. Check your oil. Make sure that it's clean and it's up. Check your coolant level. If it's a fresh build, make sure you've got the air pockets out of the car, because if you get the car hot and there's an air pocket in there, it can take a significant amount of time to get it cool enough to get the cap off. Check for leaks. It's a good idea before you bring the car to the dyno to have had some kind of a startup tune on it so that you can start the car, run it through a heat cycle, get the air pockets out of the cooling system, look for leaks and fix them. Because if you show up to the dyno day and the car's leaking all over and the coolant system's full of air and it's down on oil, it's going to take all kinds of time to sort this out, and you may find that you run out of time to actually dyno the car. Another thing to be sure of is to bring your tuner. If your car is programmed with a flash tuner like this old Diablo Trinity, make sure that you have it with you so that your dyno tuner can use it to reflash the car. If the tuner is going to be changed out to a newer style tuner or to a in-shop tool like the HP Tuners tool, bring your old tuner so that your dyno tuner can uninstall it from the car and start fresh. If the car's been flashed elsewhere with a system like HP Tuners, make sure that it's not tuner locked. If you bring the car with a tuner lock and you don't have the password, your dyno tuner is probably not going to be able to proceed with the tune-up, and it's going to be a waste of a day. Know your parts list. When I build a car, I keep a book or an envelope with all of the paperwork on the car. The guy who tunes your car is going to want to know what parts are on it. In fact, he's going to need to know what parts are on it. And especially, he's going to need to know the size of your fuel injectors. If it's a mass air car, he's going to need to know the particulars of the mass air meter. If it's a speed density car, he's going to need to know what map sensor you have, and so on. And if you don't have this most basic information, it can extend the time it takes to get the car set up. I spend a lot of time looking up fuel injector numbers, getting in there with a mirror and a cell phone trying to figure out what fuel injectors are actually on the car when guys show up and don't know. That's 5 things, but let me give you a couple honorable mentions. keep the car in good repair or bring it in good repair. Your dyno tuner is not going to be very happy if you pull a car in that he thinks he's just going to program and it turns out that you have to fix 100 things on it. With Fox bodies, that's not always possible, but you should do your best to show up with a car that's actually ready to be dynoed. Once more, you're going to really incur the wrath of your tuner if you do things that are a careless disregard for his personal safety. Like, for instance, I had a guy bring me a car where he left a socket in the bell housing. Now, I caught this before I lit it up, but that would have caused a clutch explosion, and that could have been the end of my feet. Don't do that kind of stuff. And I guess a final thing, the dyno day should be fun. Some tuners will allow you in the back of the shop. You should take advantage of that. But when you're there, stay out of the way. The car is going to be run at full tilt. It can have a failure. Parts can come off. If you're standing close to it, right beside it, or sitting on top of it, it could hurt you. So stay back from it. I guess another thing I should talk about is car show dynos. I see these all the time. Guys pull a dyno trailer into the middle of the car show. They have no crowd control. People are standing all around the car. Something goes wrong with the car. I'm sure you've seen other YouTube videos where this happens. And if you're unlucky enough to be standing in the throw radius of parts that are coming off the car, you could get a serious injury or even be killed. I think the safest place to watch a dyno is ahead of the car and off to one side. If the car were to jump off the dyno, you're not right in the path of where it's going to run over you. You're away from the radius where most of the things that could come off the car would come out. You can see what's going on, and the guy running the dyno can usually see you, so he knows where you're at. At car shows, don't stand behind and don't stand beside these cars. In fact, I even have a sign up here that says don't stand behind or beside dyno while the vehicle is running, as a constant reminder to people in my shop. I hope you found some of these tips useful, and I hope your next dyno day is a really pleasant experience. Hey, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, hit that notification bell so that you won't miss out on future videos.